So the atheistic narrative does not make sense to what is real, because what is real is that we search for meaning and we continuously hope.
Yes.
So the atheistic narrative does not correspond to reality, therefore it is not true. The idea that all religions teach the same truths is a lie that is driven by a political narrative that is seeking to suppress real differences in our society for community cohesion. Because they want you to be like you are, thinking that all religions are the same, because if all religions are the same, you don't see a problem with Islamic radicals blowing up stadiums in terms of discovering reality, we have to engage the full faculties of our humanity. Because reason will only get you so far, rationalism will only get you so far.
We're going to disagree again.
but I believe it is, and I'll try to demonstrate.
Tommy Robinson supporter.
If I could try and demonstrate.
Get the camera on the Tommy Robinson. England. Tommy Robinson broke the law.
What?
Tommy Robinson broke the law.
Oh my God.
He broke the law.
Okay.
Everyone breaks the law.
If you guys
suffer
want to
from
talk
speech
Tommy Robinson,
No, we're fine. We'll talk, Bob.
Everyone breaks the law.
Let Bob say his thing.
My point to you is that in terms of finding and discovering the truth, we must look at use the full faculty of our humanity. Because the full faculty of our humanity is what we're interpreting the truth by. So I'll give you a demonstration of why reason isn't sufficient alone.
Go for it.
Yeah? Can you demonstrate to me today that your mother loves you?
To you, that would be quite difficult.
Yes, I agree.
To me, it would be fairly easy.
Right. So in terms of this truth that you know to be true, is it something objective?
acceptance.
Or yes, I agree. It is an acceptance.
I wouldn't go so far as to say it was truth.
But do you believe it is a statement of truth for you to say that your mother loves you?
Yes.
Yes. So it is a statement
In
of
that broad
truth.
sense, yeah.
Yeah, it's a statement of truth. It's describing a reality, but it's not a reality that you can subject to objective, rational inquiry.
Yeah, I don't know about that, because I would
So
say...
please demonstrate to me
what I would
objective,
say-
rationally that your mother loves you.
The way I would do that is I would say that, objectively speaking, since I love human beings, some human beings,
Yep.
more than others perhaps,
Yeah.
that it would be rational to assume that other human beings do, and that would be an objective position.
Right.
So I would assume you love your mother and she loves you in the same way that my mother loves me and I love her. So I would make that assumption. It might not be true, but it would be a fair assumption.
And I agree it would be a fair assumption.
Yeah,
However, it is an assumption.
it is an assumption.
And that's my point, is that we know that there are truths that we experience as real, that we have no basis, rationally speaking, empirically speaking, to verify. But yet we know them as truths.
It does make sense, though, also from an objective sort of position of social cohesion. So if you're looking at an evolutionary sense, which obviously is opposed potentially to what you're saying.
No, I agree with
Okay,
evolution.
so
I got no problems with
it makes
evolution.
sense for social cohesion that we love each other, like each other, appreciate each other, and don't wish to hurt each other. It makes sense from a social cohesion point of view.
These are assumptions that I agree with.
Yeah, they're not assumptions in the sense because we
But they
do
are
see
not,
social cohesion.
but they are not verifiable. They are not subject to reason. They're not subject to empirical evidence.
Well,
They are simply assertions that we make.
right, but we see them in society, right?
Where is the? How do we see your mother living?
We see social cohesion. We see the way people treat each other. We do see that.
But you can't prove that that's connected to your mother's love.
It's difficult. Okay, we've got a little bit of a problem as well with the definition of love as well, haven't we? Because it's very hard to define.
Exactly.
Really hard. So we would say a deep sense of connection.
But even before you ever had words to describe this reality that you were experiencing as a child,
Yeah, you felt something.
you felt it.
Absolutely.
You knew it.
Absolutely.
It was there in you. It was
Okay.
something you experienced. even before, as a child, as a toddler, before you had words to analyse it, before you had the mind to reason upon it, before you had any evidence of it being presented to you, you knew it as a truth.
And I would say that was my genetics, and you would say something else was in me, that it was the Spirit of God in you.
No, don't characterise my position.
Oh, okay. You go ahead.
You characterise your position as you wish.
My position, it'd be genetics for social cohesion.
But have you yet given me any demonstrable proof that your mother loves you, or are you willing to accept that you knew something without reason or proof, and you knew it to be true and it is true?
No, I'd say it was reason. I'd say that because you're separating emotions from reason, and I'm saying at the same time.
As a 2-year-old, were you reasoning that your mother loved you?
To a degree.
As a 2-year-old?
Your brain is on operation, it's working.
Okay, I'm not going to get bogged down in that argument because I think it'll send us down a red herring. The point that I'm trying to make to you...
this is round 2, isn't it?
It is.
I was only coming to apologise.
It's all right. Your apology was not necessary, and I accept it in the spirit in which it was
I'm happy to go round 2.
So the point that I'm making to you is that rationalism doesn't take us all the way to knowledge. Knowledge is a subcategory of belief.
What kind of knowledge do you think you have that isn't rational?
There are many kinds of knowledge that's not rational. I know that my mother loves me. That's not a rational.
I'd say that was rational because you experience her behaving in a certain way. I don't need to prove it.
You don't need to prove it. Thank you.
Because you experience it yourself.
Now, would you accept the argument that God's existence is sufficient if I say I experience it myself, therefore God exists?
For you, yes.
For me?
Yes.
Would you say that it is an objective truth for you?
No, I'm an atheist, so no.
Okay. Yeah. So would you say that your mother's love is true whether I believe in it or not?
Right, but the difference is that I myself have love. So the objectivity comes in transposing my love onto somebody else. In the same way with harm argument. But I don't want to be harmed, so I transpose it onto
none of that
else.
proves that your mother loves you. But you know it to be true.
We know it to be true, but it is rational in the sense that we experience my mother. It's rather personal, this. We experience my mother behaving in certain ways towards me. I do.
Yeah,
and
if you want to depersonalise it, we can talk about my mother.
That's fine.
But the point that I'm making to you is you know from your toes to your hair that your mother loves you. And I don't doubt it.
But there is pushing it a little bit,
but there is no way that you can evidence this objectively. You accept that it is an assumption.
This is where we disagree.
No, hold on. These are your words. You said it was an assumption. You said it was an experience, and you offered your personal experience as an evidence.
Okay. The problem is, you say your thing, and
I'll the point that I'm making to you is that if I said to you, I have experienced God, therefore God exists, you would not accept that as sufficient evidence.
That's correct.
So why should I accept it as sufficient evidence from you that your mother loves you?
Because only if you had not experienced love yourself. If you did, most people here have experienced love themselves in some way, shape, or form.
And I would say for that. Go on.
So they would transplant that onto their mother when they're experiencing the way she behaves towards them. They would say that's love, and it's very difficult to define what we mean by love. But in the case of you experiencing God, you would only be able to objectify that onto other people that also had experienced God. But if you did it to me, it would be difficult because I'm going to say, well, I don't experience God, therefore...
Well, I would say, as the Church has always said for 2,000 years, that ubi caritas amor Deus ibi est.
Beautiful.
Where there is love, there is God. If you have experienced real love, you have had an experience of God.
By your definition, yes.
By my definition. It is something that is yet to be recognised, which is why the Church is a witness to Jehovah and his activity in the world. It is why we witness to love and witness to the activity of love and what God is doing through
There is one thing worth stating here. I think that religion is innate in us.
Yes, I agree.
I think that we do I think most people that didn't have some form of religious experience would probably be lying.
Yes.
I mean, most of us have this, we lose a loved one or we lose a pet when we're very young and we pray or we hope that there's something else. We do feel that, and it's, obviously I'm going to say it's wishful thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, but I think most of us feel it, and I think the concept of God is something that's innate within us. We would invent God ultimately, from my point of view.
I totally agree with you because I think that in terms of one of the clearest proofs that I can give to the Christian narrative being the truth is that it fully embraces the reality of humanity as humanity engages with the world around it. You've stated, and I want to try and move the conversation on rather than going around in circles. You've stated that the only evidence you can provide to your mother's love is an experience, and I accept that is true.
It's
in your
observable. I'm
experience.
saying it's observable.
I agree.
And reproducible.
So I think that's a caveat. So the point that I want to sort of draw out is that this next point about we have innately, as human beings, as human nature, we innately strive towards the metaphysical. Hope is a metaphysical concept. Love is a metaphysical concept.
We certainly rationalise meaning.
Yeah, exactly.
We rationalise meaning. No question.
We pursue meaning
Absolutely.
to order our lives.
Yeah.
So there is something structured within human nature that reaches beyond the simply material world.
It certainly is it's a reasoning that we do.
Yes.
I cannot deny that. We
Okay.
reason, we want to understand why we're here,
Yes.
the purpose of life and all the
Yep.
rest of it. We do want that.
But more than that, we innately always hope.
I agree. I
Now,
totally agree.
we innately...
We're creatures of survival. We
we
don't
are-
want to believe that we're meaningless, that there's nothing.
Absolutely. We don't want to believe it, and intrinsically we are not inclined to believe it.
Correct. Even though I'm an atheist, I'm saying.
And unless a society comes along and tries to convince us that that's the real world.
Yes, I mean, you're talking about militant atheism, right?
I'm talking about state agnosticism that we live in today, and into which we were brought up.
Well, it's because they've developed new religions, but we can talk about another one.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
part of the problem.
So my point to you is that there's something indicative within human nature that points beyond itself, that points towards the metaphysical. And when we read the scriptures, we see, what do we see? We see that the scriptures talk about faith, hope, and love, and the greatest of these being love. It talks about that the nature of the cosmos speaks to humanity about the existence of a creator, and we've all had that sense of awe when we've seen the Milky Way for the first time, and a night sky filled with stars.
Well, the sun, if you want to go back far enough.
Yeah,
Anything.
yeah. So we've
Crops growing, anything.
It has given
back
us
in the day.
it has given us a sense of awe and wonder. Now, I would suggest to you that if truth is that which makes sense, the best sense of reality, then atheism does not make sense of this yearning for the metaphysical that lays within the human structure.
We would disagree on that.
Okay, so explain to me how the love of music and how music moves the human soul is explained by the evolutionary process.
They cannot, actually. Not right now. I'm sure there is an explanation for it. I mean, it certainly makes us feel good.
But does it not make sense?
I've never researched that. I don't know what.
Does it not make more sense, and my narrative vis-a-vis yours,
Yeah, sure.
that if we are a species created by a creator who wishes us to worship him in song, that we would be musical?
I mean, we sing. Do we not sing naturally? Do mothers not sing to their children naturally? Is that not the basis of our love of song? That maybe mothers use it to calm us down, and then it's an extension of that. I'm just spitting stuff out there, okay? Because I don't actually know. But that might be an argument for it in terms of purely, rational terms rather than having a religious sense of it. But the thing, Bob, the thing for me, going from atheism, which I'm a soft atheist, so my position is neutral. In other words, I'm born an atheist unless I get compelling evidence. I'm not denying God. I'm just saying this is my position until you compel me otherwise. So,
and I am trying to compel you otherwise.
I know, I realise you're doing that. You're always proselytising, and I love that about you. So, but the thing is this. There's a big leap between this inquiry of the metaphysical, as you would put it, and a specific scripture.
Yes.
This is where we have problems.
Yes.
As much as I cannot deny that the Jesus message is a lovely one. Who can't look at the Jesus message?
Absolutely.
Matthew 6 is my favourite.
Yeah.
Okay? Going into the closet, personal relationship with God, fantastic.
Yeah.
Who could deny that that is not a wonderful message? But it's very difficult to go from an inquiry of the metaphysical and the words of this person, people, are valid.
So let me give a response to that.
Please
you see, again, remember, the philosophers have concluded that which most correlates to reality is truth. That is the philosophical understanding of what is truth.
They go back and forth on that. Yeah.
Pontius Pilate's question, what is truth? Well, the philosophers answer the question, that which correlates most to reality. I am saying to you that we interpret reality not simply through reason, but through emotion, through intellect, reason, through empirical observation, through conscience. And so I would say to you, how do we say one religion is more true than another? Well, examine your conscience. Because I am yet to meet the person that has a problem with Jesus Christ. Every religion on earth, and I am a student of religion, wants to own Jesus for themselves.
Well, even atheists could do that.
Exactly.
They can.
But does every atheist want to own Muhammad? Does every Christian want to own
That's
Muhammad?
an emotive subject, but I'd say no.
No. Does every Jew want to own Krishna? Does every Mormon want to own Buddha? But can you point to me a faith today that doesn't want to own Jesus in some way? The Muslims want to own him as a prophet. Jews today want to own him as a rabbi. Christians own him as the Son of God. Hindus own him as an incarnation of the divine.
I'm really sorry. I don't think that the Muslims own him as a prophet. I think they acknowledge him as a prophet of God.
They seek to own him as a
what
prophet.
I don't think it's like, yeah, he's ours, you know.
No, but
It's
Bob,
like,
they are like that. Bob is right, because they come down here and they try to argue with the Christians that the Trinity is invalid. They desperately go out of their way to try and disprove that the Jesus of the Bible is in fact not the Jesus of the Quran.
Yeah.
oh, okay.
So I think
It's
they
true.
do. Well, you can ask them.
The idea that all religions teach the same truths is a lie that is driven by a political narrative that is seeking to suppress real differences in our society for community cohesion.
How would you deal with that? Like, I mean, would you like outlaw those religions, or just put in laws saying like don't cross these lines? Like, how do you deal with all the other religions trying to? Like,
You mean the mess that we now find ourselves
Yeah,
in as a society?
yeah.
Well, what we've got to do as the church must assert the truth, because my concern as a Christian is the triumph of the church. I'm not interested in what happens to the state. I'm not really interested in what happens to society.
We've got to do what Bob's doing.
No,
the time.
I must assert the truth of the Christian faith, come what may. And if asserting the truth, we find ourselves in a society that is peaceful, unified, brilliant. If asserting the truth means that we find ourselves in a conflictual society, so be it.
Can we agree, though, that the truth could merely be...
in a bad society for 2,000 years, well, not for 2,000 years, let's be absolute fair and technical as we can. From the time, let's say, of Constantine onwards, let's be fair as we can.
Yeah.
It's been a nightmare. Now, it might not be a nightmare for us who are standing in Britain and we got all this wealth, but it's a nightmare for certain other countries that are under the IMF and under all these systems that we've given, the parliamentary systems we've given them, and all the, you get what, United Nations. So in the end of the day, listen, if hundreds and hundreds of years of fruit does not convince you that the Christian system, I'm not talking about the biblical, because Christian's got nothing to do with the Bible. The Christian system, which is a Roman system, has nothing as is good for the people, then there is no discussion.
Okay.
Wait, let me just say this.
I'll
The
let you finish
only
point.
thing is a gun, because you're not able to be talked to, you're not able to be, bargained with. The only answer is a gun, because you're totally zombified in your religion. I agree, if we went by the biblical way, not by the Roman way mixed with biblical way,
I don't think
civil
Bob is
law.
actually preaching that.
You get what I'm saying?
So I don't want this discussion to get taken down the track of politics, because we're having a conversation about truth. However, truth obviously affects politics, because what we live in today in our society is a society that is run by a state that practices agnosticism as a maxim of social policy. And if you're saying that your society is run by state agnosticism, what you're doing is you're blurring the lines between right and wrong, between what is true and false.
So what would you offer as a solution to that?
Christ.
No, I mean a solution, a political solution.
Christ.
So a
But
political.
you're going to need to put one forward.
Yeah.
Jewish
Right,
Roman Christ?
However,
Education, I presume.
However, what I'm saying is the political agenda of the church is for its own triumph. That's what I'm saying. What the United Kingdom wants to do to itself, and it is on a path of suicide at the moment, as is a lot of Western Europe.
Agreed.
If that's the way they want to go, let them destroy themselves. The church will be here long after the liberal progressive experiment has failed, and it is failing. So I am not concerned to fix the problems of a state.
You get no argument from me.
Yeah.
I'm no liberal.
But what I am concerned about is you as an individual. What I'm concerned about is you as an individual. And you as an individual. Because I truly believe that there is a God, and I am trying to offer good reasons. Thank you. And I'm trying to offer good reasons for you to see that. Okay? But what I'm saying is that there is a consequence to truth. There is a dividing line. And if we stand on the wrong side of that guiding line, and the Christian narrative is true, that there is a day of judgment, then you should take Pascal's wager. Do you know Pascal's wager?
No, I did once. I've forgotten more than I know. But please carry on.
Pascal's wager can be summarised like this.
I know where it's going, I'm sure.
Yeah. It's saying that in the absence of sufficient evidence, one way or the other,
Go with the less risky.
you go with the less risky.
But that surely is not in your heart.
What, the Pascal's wager?
No, surely I can't just... look, if I'm going to say, oh, there's a God because I don't want to burn,
Yep.
I've got to still believe it. I'm judged on my belief, not I can outwardly say, yeah, I'm going
Well,
with that.
and I would offer to
My
you,
heart's
and I would
not
offer
in it,
to,
I'm gonna
let me
burn.
address that point, because I would offer to you the work of Peter Hitchens, who came to faith from exactly that wager.
Famous communist.
You see, the first step along the path of faith is always the hardest. But once you've taken it, other steps become easier. We have, in this society, a rhetoric that makes us the prisoners of reason. Because we think that truth is only encountered through rationality.
It seems... The problem is that what about this argument that... I mean, how can it be moral if it's a carrot or a stick? I mean, effectively you're saying the carrot is heaven, the stick is hell. How can I be a moral agent if I'm choosing to do something just because it benefits me?
Perfect question. Allow me to address it.
Please do.
It really is a good question. Because religions that don't have the cross fall into this exact dilemma. Religions that teach you must do what God tells you to do, otherwise on Judgment Day God will send you to hell, have exactly this dilemma, which is that they're not true moral agents because they are doing something for self-reward. However, in the Christian faith, we don't believe that I'm going to heaven because I am good enough. We believe that I am going to heaven and that the church is going to heaven because Christ has taken on that punishment of sin due to me on himself. And in so doing, I am now free to operate out of love and gratitude, not fearing hell, guaranteed of heaven.
So why bring up Pascal's dilemma? If it's not about risk, which is basically what it seems to me,
Yep.
why bring it up?
Because it is to get you to...
It's a step, isn't it?
It's a step, yes. It's a step in the right direction. If a man can acknowledge to himself that there are consequences connected to Judgment Day, then he can take truth seriously and search it out wherever it leads him.
Can we be, using Matthew 6 again,
Yeah.
can we not simply be having a relationship with God completely independent of the concept of church? Because I always saw Matthew 6 as an indictment of organised religion.
Yeah.
Because it talks about the hypocrisy of praying in public,
Yep.
of going to the temples,
Yep.
of espousing these views that you love God or whatever, when in
Yep.
fact you're being judged on what you do in private
Yep.
in a relationship with God. So why can we not just have this? Maybe we can.
So the heart of Christian spirituality, it's an internal movement. What Christ was teaching there was not about you have to hide your Christianity from the world, because Christ actually teaches that if you light a lamp, you don't stick it under a bushel. You don't hide it under a bed. That we are to be lights in the world, that we are to be salt in the earth. Because the salt that's lost its saltiness is of no good, it's simply good to be trampled.
In terms of giving the message.
In terms of our effects on society around us. But what he is saying is avoid that kind of hypocrisy that fasts for 20 hours in public and then gluttonizes during the night, consuming more food in a month of fasting than you would at any other time. And when you pray, if you're not someone who's praying in private when no one can see you, why are you praying on the street so everyone can see you?
He also said, so if I'm wrong, that you can't pray for anything. That was absolutely clear.
No,
Don't ask for anything. because he knows what you want. That's what it says in Matthew 6.
No, what he's talking about is the fact that the Father knows everything you're going to ask before you ask of it. So speak to him plainly and honesty. There's a deep, that in terms of the Christian ethic, there's a deep authenticity and sincerity that has to characterize the Christian life. We have to be truthful, inward, outward. Not simply truthful because we're scared of public shame.
Are you saying that the way I read it, and no Christian here, okay? The way I read it is that I cannot, if I was a Christian, pray for something. For example, I cannot say, save my son in a battle, for example.
Yeah.
I must merely use the Lord's Prayer, or and that's it. It's not about asking for things because God knows what you need.
No, this is not what Christ is saying.
You would say that's not the case.
It's about having.
Can you look it up?
Yeah. It's about having that.
I thought it was clear.
It's about having that deep sense of commitment towards trusting in God, and to acknowledge God in all our ways in confidence that God knows what is best for us and will care for us as a father. Because we are more important than sparrows, we're more important than grass, who are displayed more in splendor than Solomon in all of his robes. So it's about Christians having a deep confidence in the truth of God, his existence as our loving Father, so that we fear nothing, so that we are confident in all things.
While this brother's looking it up, how much confidence do you have that you can spread this message? Because it's, as you said, society seems to be going down the toilet.
Yes.
So what's your sort of long-term outlook as a Christian?
My long-term outlook is, as Christ said, he said, worry not for tomorrow, only worry for the concerns of the day.
So you're dealing with it now? And
I'm dealing with what is in front of me. I'm not worried about the outcome.
Okay.
Because the Christian spirituality is to be presently minded. Neither a prisoner of your past, ashamed of everything that you've done in the past, beating yourself up, saying, why did I do this? Why did I fail to do that? Why couldn't I have done something else? Nor being a prisoner of the future, constantly worried about what the outcome is going to be, so that it paralyzes you from experiencing the moment that you're in.
Sadly, in politics, we need a slightly longer-term outlook.
But it's not anti-planning, because if the concern of your day is to plan for the future, then that's what you have to do. But you're not called to worry about the future.
I understand. Did you find it?
Yeah, so the specific verse you were referring to, I think, is this one. Therefore, do not be anxious, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? For the Gentiles seek all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them all. I think that's what you were referring
There's
to.
a bit where he says about going into the closet and praying.
But then, yeah, that's before. But then,
just
a
before
bit
the
later,
Lord's Prayer.
But then slightly after this, it says this, or Jesus says this: ask and it will be given to you, seek and you will find, knock and it will be open to you. So I don't think Jesus is saying. No, it says ask. Ask and it will be given.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's not saying don't ask. He's saying be confident in your asking.
Okay,
don't
that's
worry.
a slightly different version. That I've
Okay,
read.
I mean,
yeah.
this is the RSV.
So if we ask for good things, we can ask in confidence that God will give them to us.
without being anxious. That's
You know?
Yeah,
I'm saying don't worry.
But let's make sense of our reality, because that's what we're called to do. Truth is that which corresponds most with reality. And our understanding of the truth is more than simply reason. It is that which makes most sense and that which produces the most good. If we are...
harm principle.
Yes, but let's be clear.
I keep bringing it back to my atheism. Sorry.
But if we look at an atheistic narrative, then that means that we have no confidence in the future. We have no certainty of of any moral system. We have no certainty of any truth claim, and we have no certainty of any comfort.
We did that last week.
draw.
I certainly agree with that last week.
Yeah.
In terms of comfort, we certainly can't provide hope of any kind.
Exactly.
We cannot
But
give
yet-
meaning.
Exactly, thank you.
Cannot deny that. Cannot
no,
deny
I
that.
agree. So the atheistic narrative does not make sense to what is real, because what is real is that we search for meaning and we continuously hope.
Yes.
So the atheistic narrative does not correspond to reality, therefore it is not true.
Yeah, and if you
I'm
look
gonna
at the,
disagree, obviously.
if you look at the stats,
Wait.
just, yeah,
He's disagreeing. So give me good reasons to disagree with my conclusion.
It's not for me to prove a negative.
It's
You
not
must
for
prove,
you
yeah.
to prove a negative.
I can give an example, you know. Would you like an
Okay.
example?
Go on.
If I had to prove that pigs don't fly,
Yeah.
if I had to prove pigs do fly,
Yep.
I would have to find one flying pig. I've proved pigs fly. Done.
I agree.
If I had to prove pigs don't fly, they're negative.
Yep.
I would have to look at all pigs,
Yep.
both all of those that existed,
Yep.
all of those that will exist, all
Yep.
of those that exist today, and even when they did that, they could be choosing not to fly.
Yep.
So I'm stuck. I can't prove pigs don't fly.
I agree.
So it's the same problem with the God. You have to give me compelling evidence.
No.
You have it, I need it.
The presupposition upon which you're basing your argument is flawed. Now let me explore the presupposition that you need evidence before you can believe.
Compelling evidence.
Compelling evidence.
Which is subjective.
Okay, so I want this. I want you to tell me who proved this principle to you, when did they prove it, and what compelling evidence did they use to do so?
It's just reasonable.
It's just reasonable.
All of us operate this way in every other regard.
Basic principles of reason.
Of course.
It is an assertion, therefore.
If someone comes and tells me something,
Yeah.
I'm going to demand some evidence.
It is an assertion that you need,
Particularly when it's
Hold on.
extraordinary.
Yeah, except that it's also contradictory. It is an assertion that you need compelling evidence before you can believe, evidence of a materialistic, rationalistic nature.
Can we accept, and I think maybe you're going to disagree with this, there is no such thing as belief without evidence.
I am saying there's no such belief connected to the material world without evidence. I limit scientific inquiry and rationalism to within the natural world. However, we know from deep within the wells of our humanity that we experience things that are metaphysical.
We've agreed on that.
And therefore, these metaphysical truths that our souls are reaching to are not things subject to rational, empirical inquiry.
Right, but we did once believe the sun was a god. Through that exact same
Red herring.
process. Exact same process.
Red herring. Red herring.
It's not
Deal
red
with
herring.
what we're saying.
It's the exact same process. We reasoned that this amazing thing was in the sky. It helped the crops to grow, and we bestowed upon it deity.
The very fact that we searched for meaning to our lives is the thing that we need to deal with, because that is not subject to empirical inquiry, and therefore, to have metaphysical beliefs does not require material proofs,
Well,
because they are by
certainly don't-
nature metaphysical.
Well, we certainly don't have them.
No, we don't. I am saying to you that we don't.
So why do we need?
But we have good
Okay,
reasons.
but stop. Why do we need scripture? Why do we need Jesus if we don't need physical proofs? If it's all metaphysical and we come to it through reason, why do we need evidence, physical evidence, Jesus, the resurrection,
Yeah.
in your case, Muhammad, in their case, etc.? Why do we need that evidence?
So let's just talk again about what corresponds closest to reality. Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection, certainly the crucifixion, is a historical certainty that the Quran contradicts. So we can reject the Quran on the basis of it contradicting everything we know about history in terms of the life of Jesus.
And obviously, from my point of view, it's not a certainty.
That
Certainly,
Christ was crucified.
that's not a certainty.
That Christ was crucified.
Yeah.
Okay. There's
Highly likely.
a number of different roads this conversation would go by. And whilst as a
I'm sorry
Christian,
to be in the awkward
no,
customer.
you're not at all.
The awkward
Whilst it is very compelling for me as a Christian to leap on the argument about Christ's crucifixion and resurrection,
Right.
I want to stick to the more underpinning line of argument about how do we know and experience truth. Because I have said to you right from the very beginning that reason can only get you so far, and then you have to engage other faculties to understand the truth. You have to engage conscience. You have to engage
To
emotion.
me, that's all in the brain. That's all reason for me.
Except that when we tested your hypothesis that reason alone is sufficient, we found that you couldn't prove that your mother loved you.
Well, I said that.
But you
yeah,
do
well,
know
but
that your
was
mother
your.
loved you.
In fairness, that was your definition of proof. My definition was that it was reproducible. I could witness it. Other people could objectively put their own love onto it. So there was a lot of stuff about
You
it.
don't know that any of that is love. You don't know any of that.
No,
is
because
love, that
love
could be
is a
self-interest.
very difficult thing to define.
Exactly. So it is a metaphysical reality that we experience that we cannot subject to empirical inquiry.
So how do we come to any agreement?
Like hope. I mean, exactly. How can we
How
come
do
to any agreement?
Which is why I mentioned
Exactly.
the different scriptures.
You
I said,
have to-
which one do we follow?
You have to elucidate your thinking. You have to free your mind from the prison of reason that has been given to you by the state that follows state agnosticism. State agnosticism is what has imprisoned your mind.
I doubt.
You have to free your mind
I very
from
much
the
doubt.
skeptical narrative.
I'm so anti-state. I think that's probably unlikely. Anti-capitalist, anti-state.
Yeah.
So anyway, but going back to the scriptures thing, obviously you're going to argue this, but if I talk to a Muslim about the Quran and Sunnah,
Yep.
they're going to say that their reason compels them
Yes.
to believe it.
Yes.
It makes more sense than the Christian narrative.
Ex-
And one of the examples they will quote
Yep.
is the Trinity.
Okay, so let's just deal with all of those topics collectively
Sorry,
together.
I'm throwing everything out there.
Yeah, you're throwing stuff out there. I mean, normally I'd use a bit of showmanship, characterise the debate as he's struggling and he's clutching at
I'm not
straws.
struggling.
But I feel that that would be.
I'm
I feel that would be unfair today because you've been so civil. He's been so civil.
I'm civil, but I'm
No,
entrenched.
I'm joking. I'm just winding you up. It's just a bit of a.
We started
just a
off
bit
with
of
an
a-
apology from me from last week.
It did. So my point to you is, here's why I reject Islam.
Yes.
There are claims within Islam that are verifiably false. Claim number one, the Quran has never been changed. It's verifiably false because we can identify different Qurans. Claim number two, Christ was never crucified. It's verifiably false because every historian from antiquity evidences the crucifixion of Christ. Claim number three, the Quran is without error. Well, that is evidently false because the Quran claims that Christians believe in three gods when we only believe in one, so therefore it is
But
evidently
did you
false.
come to that? Right, but did you come to that from a Christian narrative? Because if the Muslims do the same thing, when we have debates about science,
Yes.
which we're having a little bit today,
Yeah.
if you're coming from a Christian narrative or a religious narrative, they're not coming open-minded. With science, when you come with science, you come with skepticism.
Yes.
But when you come from a religious narrative,
Yep.
you come on the offensive. You know, it's like, I'm going to disprove this point. So what you did there is you said, well, you know, it's false, and they're doing the same for you. They're saying, well, the Trinity's false, and this is why it's false, and they're doing the same thing. So how does one from the outside, someone like me who's an atheist,
Yep.
entrenched,
Yep.
how do we make sense of this mess? Now you did elucidate a little bit because you said we do it without feelings and our reason.
We do the full corpus of our humanity. So the full corpus of our humanity, it is emotions and conscience, it is sentiment as well. And what I am saying is that which is true is that which corresponds closest to reality. The atheistic narrative can make no sense of humanity's yearning for metaphysical truths and for the fact that we have hope and that we have a sense of awe and a sense of beauty. These
This
things
is the byproduct of our reasoning, I would say.
These lay beyond an atheistic narrative. Hope makes
I don't think they do. Yeah.
Hope makes no sense in a chaotic world.
No, it's,
that
an
is
extension,
born
it's
of-
an extension of survival.
It's-
We want to survive, and we know that we die, so we yearn for something else. It makes sense to me.
Except that hope is something that we cannot verify existing outside of humanity, so therefore it is not objective. We cannot prove that lions hope.
It's very difficult, isn't it, to prove
We
that?
can't prove that hyenas hope. So we have no way to verify that this thing called hope is real.
We do.
Except that we all know it's real because we all experience it. So truth is not simply rational or empirical. Truth lay beyond reason and empiricism.
Which I disagree with.
Well, except I'm not
For the reasons
anti-science.
I've stated. For the reasons I've
I am
stated.
not anti-science. I believe in evolution. I believe in the Big Bang.
See, I told you there were some.
I believe in the historical process. I am not
It's actually
anti-science.
incredibly difficult,
But
from
hold
my
on.
point of view, to even argue with you, and I'll tell you why.
I agree, it is.
The fact that, not because you're right, but because what you believe is rather wonderful for you. And for me to come along, and I have the same problem with Muslims, somebody said to me, you know, you've got to believe, why don't you argue with me? And I said, because what you believe is beautiful. Why do I want to take that away from you? Why do I even want to show you anything? I'm not a militant atheist.
Do you believe that Islam is wonderful?
For that person, it could be, yes.
Do you think it's wonderful for everyone else?
It's probably not wonderful for me.
Do you think
Long term?
Now answer this question.
And I have issues with
Do
that.
you think
yeah.
Christ's teaching is wonderful for you?
I find it very difficult to argue against Christ's teaching. But then again, maybe if I really
That you should love a bit more, and then you should love some more. Good question. Good question. So in terms of a love, Christ gives us a number of markers to elucidate what love means. Love is, as my neighbour, that good which I want for myself, I should pursue for you. So if I want to be free, I should pursue freedom for you. If I want a home for myself, I should allow those conditions that will allow you to have a home. If I want to be fed, then I should pursue those conditions that allow you to be fed. And if you also practice that love for him, and he practices that love for him, and he practices that love for him, and he practices that love for him, then what a world will we live in?
And I agree, and I'm an atheist.
Tell me any religion or any philosophy that don't preach the same.
Islam, Buddhism, I don't know about Sikhism. Islam, Buddhism definitely don't.
Sikhism's pretty inclusive.
I can't. I'm not going to say. It's been a long time since I've studied Sikhism, and I have forgotten everything that I learnt about Sikhism. However, Buddha taught that the point of life is to escape the wheel of reincarnation, and the way that you do that is to avoid suffering, because suffering is what pins you to the cycle of reincarnation. So when Buddha tripped upon this truth, he went and sat under a tree for decades. You know, this is not the proactive love that Christ teaches. Islam can be characterized as an ideology that is based upon supremacism, the supremacism of Sharia law over all other systems, which means that other people who are not committed to Sharia law must be subjugated so that Sharia law can dominate. Now, Christ says that I should love you as my neighbour, whether you're a Christian or not. And that good that I want for myself, I pursue for you. So Christ's teaching about love is truly unique in world religions. It is truly unique because of its emphasis, and it's truly unique because of its quality. So I offer to you that the best philosophy by which we can live our lives are those of Christ.
Now, you would say no, that's not true. You know, we accept.
Do you know how many Muslims I've spoken to?
You know, whether you're Christian or Jews, whatever you do, whatever you want. You know.
Do you know something? This is the kind of. Shall we move away from the preacher? Let's move away from the preacher.
All of us in this world
Move away from the preacher.
are in bondage to sin.
Sorry, guys. Sorry, guys.
Right.
I don't want to shout over the preacher. So let me ask. Let's just address this point. You said that a Muslim would say all the things that I'm saying. No, about love, about doing good. No, I heard your point. Let me address it. The reality of the matter is that this is the kind of liberal naivety that has been pushed by a political ideology in the Western Hemisphere.
It's not naivety. What he's saying is they
It
would
is
say that.
naivety.
He didn't
It is naivety. Because let me finish my point. It is naivety. Because I am a student of religion. I did my degree in religion and I specialized on Islam and Christianity. And I am telling you, as a fact, Islam does not teach the equality of all peoples.
But why would
It
the Muslim
teaches.
person say?
It teaches.
No,
They would.
Please.
They will tell you what they
Please,
want to hear
please,
to
please,
proselytize. But go on.
When I asked you
Yeah.
what love is,
Yeah.
and you explained to me what love is,
Yeah.
and you stopped there
Yes.
in that box.
Yes.
When I ask you, telling you, the same person, a Muslim person, would say to me exactly the same.
And you've heard that?
Yes.
Right, okay.
They all sick person.
Do you think that they would? Do you think? One second, brother.
We love
Brother.
one or the other.
Do you
Bob's
think?
right, it is a certain
Do you
naivety
think
outside
that
this.
a religion, a man who's proselytizing to you, wanting you to embrace Islam, is going to say something that would offend your conscience?
I'm not going into that. I'm not saying to you now, look what the Bible says. What this. I said to you what a Muslim would say.
Yes.
You are a Christian.
Absolutely.
And you are preaching law.
But what I am
You are
saying-
preaching law.
Yes.
Yeah?
And who's inspired me to do that?
I don't know.
Jesus.
Christianity.
Christianity.
Yeah.
What does a Muslim? We know. No offense, brother. I don't know if this is your first time or whether you're a regular here. But I've debated with Muslims countless times as evidenced on SOCO films, and I will tell you what they preach to me. They preach Sharia law is the perfect system, and if we follow Sharia law, it will sort out all the problems of society. Go and speak to a Muslim if you don't believe me, and they'll drop in there attacks against Christianity, saying it's illogical, irrational, and makes no sense. But you know in your conscience that love makes sense. Now, here's the problem with Sharia law. Sharia law says that I, as a Christian, should be a dhimmi. Do you know what a dhimmi is?
No.
A dhimmi is a protected citizen. Protected by being humiliated, by being denied the rights to practice his own faith. In an Islamic state, in an Islamic state, I, as a Christian, will have to pay a tax called the jizya. And I pay this tax so that my life and my property are protected from the state. You know what we call that? It's called a racket. It's called a mafia racket. We Christians have 14... One second. He's touched on something here.
He has, but
We Christians have had 1,400 years of experience of what it means to live under Sharia law. And let me tell you, it isn't about equality, it isn't about being loved, and it isn't about being cared for. It's about being humiliated, it's about being oppressed, and it's about being persecuted. Go and look up church history. Go and look up how Christians... Go and speak to the Coptic Christians. You're not interested in history? No. Not interested in history? Are your opinions separate from the history that came before you?
Maybe not.
Maybe not. Okay, so history has informed you,
Yeah, it could.
but you're not interested in
I
history.
don't study history. I don't believe in history. But if history have any impact on me that I'm not aware of, I hold my head.
Okay.
My head.
This is the amnesia of our culture. This is the amnesia of our culture. We have forgotten what it meant for the Turks to invade Eastern Europe and oppress the Christians in Eastern Europe. We have forgotten what it meant when the Muslims invaded Spain and oppressed the Christians in the Iberian Peninsula. We have forgotten what 1,400 years of jihad meant. And why? Why have we forgotten? Why have we forgotten? They're still oppressing Christians today. Go and speak to the Coptic Christians. Go and speak to the Syrian Christians.
I think the history argument is a tricky one.
No, hold on.
It's a tricky
Hold
one
on.
because Christianity is
It's still happening today, and it's been going on for 1,400 years.
Talk about what's happening today.
I am talking about what's happening
the history argument
today.
is
And if you
dangerous.
talk about history,
Christians are being persecuted today.
Why don't it run to Qatar?
Are you listening?
oh, that is a bit totally
Are you
different
listening?
subject, very complicated.
So
Very
let me
complicated.
just deal with this.
It is very, very complicated.
Let me just deal with this. Why in the West are we suffering from cultural amnesia? It is because the political state wants you all. It sees you all as a problem to be managed. That is why it does not want you to know your own history. That is why it doesn't want you to know your own past or have any pride in your own history, because if you did, you wouldn't tolerate half the shit that the establishment gives to you and that you receive from other groups that are opposed to your Christian culture and history. And that is why they want you to forget it, because social cohesion...
Why would they want you to forget?
One
Why
second.
they don't just take it away?
Because they want you to be like you are, thinking that all religions are the same. Because if all religions are the same, you don't see a problem with Islamic radicals blowing up stadiums in Manchester. You think that all people can do that, and so all people can be as
I
bad.
never said all the religions are the same. Please.
Okay.
I said they would say a Muslim person or any other religion person, if I go and ask around, they're all gonna say we are here to preach love and all we want.
And I am
everybody
telling
to be
you-
equal. We want on blah blah blah. All
And I'm
these
telling
things
you,
that
they
would
don't.
say.
They don't.
I'm not saying the religion are.
Guys, who's been a regular at Speaker's Corner? Put your hand up. Right, who's been a regular watcher of the programmes? When I've debated Muslims, have they argued with my ethic of love by arguing an ethic of love, or have they argued for Sharia? Speak up! Thank you. These are my witnesses, this is my evidence, you are wrong.
It's fine. It's
You're
fine.
wrong.
Yeah, that's fine.
And when you look at the text of the Quran, They teach completely different things. Totally different. And society would be structured and organized completely differently depending on which one is the basis of your society. If you don't believe me, look at Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has been dominated by Islam unchallenged for 1400 years, and they only got rid of the slave trade last century. They've only just given women the right to drive a car. Do not believe the political lie of the establishment that all religions are the same. It is a lie. It is a lie. And they are lying to you because their politics, the politics of the establishment, is served by your substitute, by your forgetting of history, by your forgetting of your own culture, by your forgetting of your own identity as a people that is rooted in the church. You have an accent. Where are you from?
I'd rather not say.
You'd rather not say. Are you ashamed of your country?
No, I'm not.
So where are you from?
Why do you want me to say? How does that help you?
It's going to help me. Tell me where you're from.
It has nothing to do with it.
Okay. Where are you from then?
No.
He doesn't want to say. Fair enough. Okay. So I'll talk generally.
I think it's love, isn't it?
I will talk generally. The whole of European civilization has been built upon the church. Let me give you some examples of how much and to what degree that influences you all. Pull out your credit card and look at it. Look at the expiry date. It is given to you by the church. That is a date connected to Christ's birth. You're speaking and hearing me through English. The grammatical structures of the English language were formed by the Bible and the Book of Common Prayer. Our architecture, our sense of art, the very fact that we have portraits that you can go and see in the British Gallery. You're not going to find that in Mecca or Medina. You won't, one second. You won't find that there. Our heritage is a heritage of the Christian faith. And the Greco-Roman world is part of our heritage. Europe was built on Roman law, Greek philosophy, and Christian faith. When we deny any of those things, we deny the thing that made us European. We deny our own heritage, our own identity. And I'm calling all of you, if you consider yourself British, if you consider yourself European, embrace this truth. Embrace your own history, your own identity. Do it with pride, as I do. Don't allow yourself to be intimidated by the liberal establishment, those virtue signalling hypocrites that we see in the media and on the news. Don't allow yourself to be intimidated by the Islamists who lie about the Christian faith, saying it's a white man's religion. The Christian faith was born in Africa at exactly the same moment it was born in Europe. The Coptic and Ethiopian churches are as old and as venerable in the eyes of the global church as any church you would find in Europe. There was a church in India founded by St. Thomas. The Christian faith was global from its birth. It belongs to no race. It belongs to no ethnicity. It belongs to the world, and every nation can find their home in the church. Extra ecclesiam nulla salus. Outside of the church, there is no salvation.
Thank you, Antoine, to ask a question.
I just want to know your religious views and kind of what you're trying to preach, whether it's love or hate, because earlier you said that all religions aren't the same. Earlier you were saying that all religions aren't the same, but practically the people that you're mentioning in regards to the Islam.
Think about what you said. We heard today, yeah? Look after yourself.